We are back. This is time for ending up this liquid DeSoto swim and dive animation. So we are going to call this one good. As most of you did already, we've got that 3 steps that in our colors that kind of wave up and kind of show and take over the word DeSoto swim and dive and kind of reveal that, which looks really, really nice. So we have 3 compositions that are nested within our liquid text, and it's basically just a duplicate. So we used those first 2 layers. So we're going to go ahead and move on from here. Back in my project window, you can find that. If you can't see it, if you click on these little arrows, you can see project, or if you need to, just resize this window here and it will show up a little bit better. We're going to create a 3rd composition for this project, and we're going to call this Wipe Away Liquid. Same settings that we had before, 1920 by 1080. It's still 30 frames per second, it's still 10 seconds long, and it still has a background color of black. So I create that new composition. You can see that I have now nothing down here in my timeline. I have nothing on my composition. I have the Wipe Away Liquid composition open. If you still see this, your composition isn't open, please make sure you open up the Wipe Away Liquid composition. Now from here, we're going to go ahead and drag that liquid text down into our timeline. So once we do that, we now see that we have that hierarchy again. It goes from Wipe Away Liquid to liquid text to DeSoto swim. Now remember, inside liquid text, we have 3 compositions or 3 copies of the DeSoto swim composition. So this is showing all of the compositions that are within. So this is where we talk about that nesting. Talked about it a little bit last semester, but now we're talking about it again. So nesting those compositions together. We have that liquid text, and it looks really nice. Looks really good, covers everything up, or reveals everything. But now we want to wipe this away. So after our animation kind of ends here, about 3 seconds, we're going to wait just a little bit longer. I'm going to zoom in again. I'm going to go about 3 seconds and 20 frames. Right here is where we're going to now try to make all of the DeSoto swim and dive text go away. So we have the liquid text in here. Let's go ahead and open that liquid text composition. And we're going to click on Shape Layer 1. And we're going to hit Command-C to copy. Okay. Let me turn this back on. So Command-C to copy that. Go back to the Wipe Away Liquid composition, and we're going to paste this. And this time we want this to be over the top of our liquid text. All right? And currently, we need to drag this wave layer to where it's not going to start showing until right here. So 3 seconds and 20 frames. So if I'm going to zoom out just a little bit here so you can see the whole timeline. So starting at 0 seconds, here's where my liquid text composition starts, and we get all the way to 3 seconds and 20 frames, and now Shape Layer 1 is going to show. And it's going to do the same thing that we had it do before in liquid text, and just going to show over the top. But now this is just that shape. So the last thing that we're going to do with this one for Wipe Away is we're going to turn another track matte on for liquid text this time. And instead of an alpha matte, we're going to do alpha inverted, which means that it's basically just the reverse of what the alpha matte is. Okay? So now it's only going to, this liquid text is going to show except for when the shape layer is over the top of it. So as we scrub through here, you can see already that as that shape layer 1 is kind of coming up, you can see it's just wiping that text away. So remember, with that alpha inverted, the liquid text will show when it's not being covered up by this. Okay? So it's like a reverse mask here. Okay? So as it covers everything up, that looks really cool. Okay? So now if we build this whole preview, this is pretty easy. Once it gets to here. It's going to start slowing down. But let's fast forward just a little bit. There we go. We can see it starting to kind of wave and cover that up. This looks really nice. That's a good start. So there's one more thing that I want us to do with this, just to add a little bit more flavor to this, I guess you could say. So we can watch that one more time. That wipe away looks really nice. Cool. So the last thing we're going to do here is we're going to create one more composition. I know that now we've nested 4 compositions together. This one we're just going to call bubbles because you guessed it, we're going to add some bubbles to this. So we have some bubbles here. We're going to drag the wipe away liquid composition in, and then we're going to create a new adjustment layer. So this adjustment layer is going to hold an effect here. So we're going to go over to our effects and presets window, and we're going to type in bubbles, and we should see CC bubbles. I'm going to click and drag that and drop it on adjustment layer 1. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the adjustment properties off of this for right now so that we can see those bubbles. This looks really cool. Okay, so now we can see those bubbles are over the top of that swim and dive stuff, which looks really cool. But let's change one more thing about it. We're actually going to find our project window again and bring another copy of the wipe away liquid in, and we're going to put that over the top. It's like a like an adjustment layer sandwich here. We've got wipe away liquid on both sides, got the adjustment layer right through the middle. Looks really cool. So we're just going to go ahead and turn on an alpha matte for our bubbles on that adjustment layer. So I'm going to change the name of adjustment layer 1 to bubbles layer. Okay, that looks good. Cool. And making sure I show my layer name, bubbles layer. Looks cool. So now, when we watch this through, you can see the bubbles just show through the text, which is really cool. Now, the reason that we have 2 layers here is because we're showing these bubbles only through this text here. If we turn this one off, all we're going to see is text, or all we'll see is bubbles. And we can't actually read what that text is. So all that hard work that we did earlier is for nothing. So that's why we have a second copy of this liquid or the wipe away liquid in here. So that way that text still shows. See, if we turn this one off, it goes away. If we turn it back on, there we go. Now we can see it. That looks really cool. Okay? Now from here, the last thing we could do is with our bubbles layer and our effect controls, we could increase the amount of bubbles. We could increase the speed of our bubbles. We could also turn on keyframes for our bubbles. So if we go to about here, actually we'll start from the beginning. We'll set a keyframe for bubbles at 150, and then as it gets to the top, which is about right there, we're going to increase the amount of bubbles significantly. You can see all those bubbles in there. It looks really cool. I'm going to go to 550. That's a lot of bubbles. That looks good. And then after it starts to wipe away, we'll go just a little bit further. Here comes the wipe away. We're going to create another keyframe just by changing this, and we're going to go back down to 200. Actually, let's make it a little bit more. Let's do 300. That looks good. Right? So you can also get to that effect by drilling down on this adjustment layer. You can see effects right here, CC bubbles, and you can see where all of those same properties from here are right here as well. So we can change that bubble amount, change those keyframes, go in here and adjust anything and everything that we need to, or go in and adjust those keyframes. We could make them easy ease, whatever we really wanted to do. But now let's go ahead and kind of watch through this. You can see all those bubbles. They increase a lot, and now they start to pop as it gets closer to when they start to wipe away. It goes away. That looks really good. So my total animation ended up being about 6 seconds long. So if I really wanted to, I could go to my composition settings and I could trim this down to 10, but remember that once you do that, okay, all of the other compositions are going to have to be trimmed as well. So if I do 06, this is fine, and it works for now, and like I wouldn't have to do anything else. But if I needed to increase the size of it, I also have to go back, and I'm going to have longer compositions here. So it is good practice to go in and change the length of these compositions too, just because rendering can take a little bit longer if there's longer compositions in there that you don't actually need. So from here, we would go File, Export, and Add to Render Queue. Make sure that you change, we don't want to have this called bubbles, we want to call this DeSoto, Swim, and Dive. Go ahead and save that, hit render, wait for that to finish up. Shouldn't take too awfully long. And there's that great sound. Make sure that you go over to your file, open it up, make sure it converts before you turn it in. Don't turn in something that's not converted. Then File, Save, or Export As, and then turn in that file. Great job. Make sure you finish that up, and we'll see you next time.